All right, I'm going to share with you just a few tips, 3 tips on how to sell your house with a tenant in Pennsylvania. And a lot of people ask me for advice on this, and there's a whole, path you could go down with all these tips and tricks and things to look out for. But I really just want to highlight 3 things that I think no one else is talking about. So if you're a landlord, if you own an apartment building, a house, a duplex, a triplex, you're gonna want to think about these 3 things when you're getting ready to sell your property that is tenant occupied in Pennsylvania, okay? The first thing is you want to make sure that you treat your tenant really good. So I'm just going to write down here, treat your tenant good. You already should be doing this if you're a good person, but really take good care of them, right? Be understanding, be a human being. You are leasing your property to them, but they have their own lives, their own, issues and family and financial stuff going on. So the better you are to your tenant, the better they're going to take care of your property, the better they're going to have it show to potential investors and buyers, and the better situation that someone coming in would want to take over is a really good tenant that pays on time, doesn't have a lot of maintenance issues, and has a very positive relationship with their landlord. I cannot underscore enough how important it is to take good care of your tenants, and they'll take good care of you on the back end when you get ready to sell. The second thing that no one's talking about is having organized financials. Okay. Remember, your rental property is nothing more than a business, okay? It's a cash flowing operation that someone else is stepping into and purchasing so that they can get that return and get that yield for them as time goes on. If you try to sell your property and you don't really have the lease agreements, you say, oh, I don't know what the rent is, it's something like this. You don't have all the expenses that really detail that out so that an investor can run an analysis and come up with a capitalization rate and so on and so forth. Your property is going to be a big question mark in the eyes of buyers, right? And so you can't expect to get offers on it because no one really knows what it's worth without knowing how it operates, what the financials are, what the expenses are, and what the rental rates are as well too. Okay, so that's really important. Being organized demonstrates that you take good care of it, and if you take good care of your financials, they assume you take good care of the property, and that's really attractive for buyers. Okay, and then the last thing here that I want to point out, a tip for selling your tenant-occupied property, right, is to really think about how and who you're going to sell it to. Okay, when you're selling something that's tenant occupied, you're kind of setting the ceiling for how much you can ask for, because if there's a certain amount of rental income, right, the next person's going to use that in their calculation to determine how much they could offer if they have to take out debt or if they want to get a certain return on their cash. So if you go and just flip this up on the MLS with a real estate agent, not only are you going to have to pay them to do that, and there's going to be a commission, but they're going to bring in all sorts of different people that are testing and prodding your deal here. You're going to get people financing it, people that are trying to take out primary resident loans and so on and so forth, and all these different permutations that just don't work. But if you go directly to a cash buyer who is the right kind of person for this, you go directly to a local investor, you're going to ensure that they're going to get to the closing table, they're going to cut it across the finish line, but also that they're not going to have any major hiccups. This isn't their first time doing this, and they're professionals at buying tenant occupied property. They know what they're stepping into, and they have no fear of doing it, right? No one's talking about these 3 things. They're just, usually saying, okay, I have a rental property, let's throw it up on the MLS. I'd encourage you to think about this. Think a little bit differently. These are 3 great tips that I think you should be contemplating if you're looking for advice and intel on how to sell your tenant occupied property in Pennsylvania.